Good morning, everyone. We are starting the second section on Hashgacha. I think what would make the most sense for today is I'm just actually going to summarize the first three pieces. Just highlight a couple of different things that come out. So the first thing that he mentions is that Hashem, who created the world, obviously created everything with a purpose. That's self-evident. If we believe in a God who has a God, then by definition, everything he created has a purpose. And what that means is that if it was created for a purpose, then it will survive for as long as it has a purpose. What that means is that there's a possibility that there will be animals or things or countries or places that have a limited function. They have a function for a certain amount of time, and at some point, they no longer have a function. So God may have decided at some point in history, or at some point in the point of creation, that there be a purpose in, let's just say, dinosaurs for a certain amount of time, and then at some point, we no longer need them, and therefore, God would, so to speak, pull the plug on them and allow them to be extinct. There's nothing that is problematic, difficult to understand in that concept, that God decrees that something is needed, he therefore creates it, and as soon as it is no longer needed, then God, so to speak, pulls the plug and says, we're done. And so the idea is that everything, though, that is in creation has a purpose. Now, here is the key distinction that he's going to highlight, and that is that when it comes to the existence of anything that is not human. So let's just talk about animal species, whether it's, this type of animal or this type of bird or whatever it's going to be, then in that respect, there is, because of their role in creation, what is needed is that these birds or these mammals or whatever it is exists in a general sense. Do I need this particular bird to exist? No. Not at all. But I need birds to exist, or this type of species of birds to exist. As opposed to when it comes to people, do I need this person and that person to exist? The answer is yes. Each and every person has a very unique and particular role to play. And because of that, therefore, when God oversees the existence of each one of these the existence of birds or the existence of mammals or whatever it's going to be, the Hashgacha, the providence, the oversight that they have is much more or entirely generalized. There is what he describes as Hashgacha klalis. There is not personalized oversight, but rather it is completely generalized. So, as opposed to every single human being who has a very particular and specific purpose to play, the human being, because that has a very specific type of oversight, where God is watching over you and watching over you and watching over you and watching over you. Each of you have a very particular sense of purpose, and therefore Hashem has to ensure that you are doing exactly what needs to be done and everything is happening to you the way it has to be done, which is going to be the theme of the rest of our chapter. But before we get to humans, we just want to distinguish right now between humans and animals. When it comes to animals, it is not important to God, for this particular animal to exist, it's important for the species to exist, right? There is a role for the species to exist. And therefore, the hashgacha that animals have is a general one. God creates a koach, a force, to create all the, leopards in the world, and malachim to run those to oversee those leopards and make sure things are being done properly. But in terms of the oversight, in terms of what's going on at the top, it is a very generalized oversight, and God allows nature to completely run its course when it comes to leopards, right? If you were to see a person who died, right, you were to say, this is, generally speaking, because of God's Hashgacha. In a general sense, we'd say there was a decision of some sorts that God decided, decreed, that this person should or should not exist, okay? But when it comes to animals, if you see, I just walked, I forgot to tell somebody, sorry, doing this, but if you walk outside the second door over there is a decapitated bird. Sorry, okay, whatever, I don't know, some squirrel got it. It happens, right? Did God decree that bird should be decapitated? The answer is absolutely not. There, it is nature running its course, okay? Not everyone agrees to this. Some will say, take a more extreme view. The Ramchal is of the opinion, no. God should create a general sense of Hashgacha, but when it comes to what happens to particular birds, particular animal, God is allowing, of course, it ultimately emanates from God, because God created nature and caused nature to run its course. But there, it's God just saying, hey, animals should exist, birds should exist, they should be able to fly, they should also be able to be caught by squirrels sometimes, and their heads should be able to be ripped off in the following way, I'm sorry. But the point is that did God decree that particular bird die in that particular way? The answer is absolutely not. It is part of nature, and what God is ensuring is that birds exist, and that species of birds exist, but the particulars are not in any way under his focus. Again, does everything emanate from Hashem? Yes, 100%. But in terms of Hashgacha, when we think about a divine providence of God watching over the bird, Absolutely not. Okay, so that's the distinction between animal, or one of the distinctions between animals and people. People have particular hashgacha, and we'll talk about all those details in the days to come. Animals have a generalized hashgacha and not particular. Okay.